Okay, so in today's tutorial, I'm going to show you how the useOptimistic hook works in React 19. So let's get started. So the useOptimistic hook is actually, I think, a really great hook. Let's open up the previous and new way of doing this. So in the previous version, let's say I have a to-do app, right? So I have to-dos, right? So let's say I wanted to add something into my to-dos, right? So I would just create something like data and then submit that. So as you can see, I can do this, but the code to write this is seriously long. Like, look at this thing. First, I have to create use state hooks, and one is a hook that has all of my to-dos. The other one is to target the to-do field. And then I have a submit form function, which is on submit. This is going to be triggered. And what this is doing is I'm preventing my form from being submitted. And after 2 seconds, I'm submitting the data into my to-do state. Change that to 2. Okay. So then I have a add to do function. What I am doing with this is on change, I want to trigger this function add to do, and what this add to do is doing is into my to do field, which is basically this input field. Okay, I am adding in the value. Okay, so and then the state is being updated, and then I'm just submitting that data, and then I'm just adding the data here. So this is how you did it the previous way. Now in the new way of doing this, as you can see, this is way less code than what you ended up doing here. Like, look at this long file. Okay, so I'm still having a state that has my to-dos. Okay, that's normal. But what I am doing now is in my to-do, right? What I'm doing right now is I have a form, and in my action, I'm triggering the add to do function, which, if you have watched my previous use form status hook tutorial, you know what the action attribute now does in React 19. So I'm just passing in a function. Okay, and what this is doing is it's an asynchronous function. So in this, I'm just getting the form data, which has my input fields, and to target that input field, I'm just doing form data dot get and then the name of the input field, which is to do. And as you can see, this is the name of the input field. I'm getting the value from my input field, and then I'm just waiting 1 second. Actually, let's just make this 2 seconds. So I'm waiting 2 seconds, and then I'm setting my to do. Okay, and this is something that is in this. Okay, but you have a use optimistic hook, and I will tell you what the use optimistic hook does. When we submit some kind of data using a form, right, you have to wait like 2-3 seconds for that data to be submitted. So what do you want to display before that data is submitted? That's what the use optimistic hook is doing. So I'll explain the code in a little bit, but let's go into the new version. Okay, let me just add data, and actually let me just show you, let me just refresh this for a second. If I add data, right, it will pause for 2 seconds and then add the data in the previous version. See, the data is added. Now, if I, in the new way, I add data, you will see that this is added here. The data is added and we saw something even though we were waiting 2 seconds. Okay, if you noticed that. So what is this doing and how is this all working, right? So in my add to do, what is happening is I'm using the add optimistic, and this has two things: the optimistic state, which I'll explain later, and the add optimistic. Okay, so the add optimistic, what that is doing is it's checking basically. Like, let's say, for example, I was adding something into this, right? Let me just change this. Let me just do sending. Okay, let me just do that. So let me just refresh this. Let me just add some data. Oh, I didn't save. That was my bad, guys. Save that. Let me just refresh this page. Just add the data. You're seeing sending, and then you saw this, right? So what this is doing, using add optimistic, I'm sending something as a placeholder for the data while my data is being submitted to some kind of API, which takes about 2-3 seconds. I am showing this as a placeholder, and I can pass in an array, text, whatever. And then to use this use optimistic hook, what you do is you have the optimistic state, which is the initial state that you pass in, which is the to-dos I'm passing in. Okay, and using the optimistic state, I'm just mapping that out. Okay, using a map. And these to-dos, which are this, is in my now optimistic state. Okay, so how the use optimistic hook works. So when the add optimistic function runs, what it does is whatever I put into this area, it's now this. So when I end up adding this is the current state, which is basically whatever is in our optimistic state right now, currently. That is the current state. So the optimistic value is this right here. And when our add optimistic function runs, what's happening here is it's putting in a placeholder. Like if I refreshed this, if I just add this in, you will see sending first and then data. So for the 2-second delay that I've added, I'm seeing sending using this, which is getting the previous data, which is this, and then I'm adding this into it. That's why you're seeing sending first for the 2-second delay, and then I'm setting my state. I'm updating my state, okay, in this, and when this gets updated, this updates as well. And because that updates, my use optimistic state gets reloaded with the data that is now the updated data in my use state hook. So that is being put in here. Like if I add data 1 sending, and then you see data 1. So this is how the use optimistic hook works. So I hope you like this tutorial. Like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.